The Bible says that the whole human race have descended from an original couple, Adam and Eve. And that has been believed down the centuries. But recently there are some people who study population genetics who have been saying, no, that cannot possibly be the case. And their argument is based upon the fact that one person has 2 copies of every gene. In their genome, they have 20,000 genes, perhaps 20,000 or so. And they only have 2 copies, one from their father and one from their mother. Now, many of those genes come in different versions, different varieties. They're the same gene. Gene X, shall we say, may have just 2 versions, or it may have 10 versions, perhaps even more in some cases. And so, how could such versions arise if everyone has descended from 2 people who can only have 4 of those genes between them? They could be all the same genes, but they could be 4 different versions of that one gene, whatever gene it is, gene X. They only have between them 4 versions. And if the whole human race has descended from those people, there can be only 4 versions of that particular gene in the whole human congregation, in the whole population. And yet we find there are some genes, at least, which have 10 or perhaps even as many as 100 different versions. And they say that makes it impossible for the whole human race to have descended from just 2 people. Now, there is a big technical argument because other geneticists come back and say, no, you've made a mistake, or rather you've oversimplified the question, and we can show how just 2 people could produce the genetic variability that we find today among human beings. But I can't get into the technical argument, but I do want to point out one basic fallacy of the argument that there might be, or must be, not 2 original people, but 10,000 original pre-humans from which the present human stock has derived or evolved. And that fallacy is the assumption that Adam and Eve only had 4 versions of a gene between them. And that would only be the case if Adam and Eve had parents, because it is because we have one gene from our parents, from our maternal parent, one gene from our paternal parent. That's why we have 2 copies. But if Adam and Eve, as the Bible says, were created afresh as special creations by God, created in the image of God, then we have no idea what their genome consisted of, genome being the totality of a person's DNA. They may have had hundreds of different versions of that gene built into a very rich genome. And that would not only have enabled them to produce a human race which has great variability genetically, but also would have prevented any problems arising from their children marrying one another because the genome would have been so rich that the problems that arise today when brothers and sisters marry or try to marry would not have occurred in those early days of humanity. So, as I say, the whole argument that you need a pre-human population of 10,000 people, not just 2 people, to account for the present genetic variability of the human race, the whole argument is built on the assumption that Adam and Eve, if they ever existed, had evolved from lower animals. Evolution is built in as an assumption to that calculation. And the Bible says, no, they did not evolve. They were created afresh, and God gave them, equipped them with whatever genetic richness he chose in order to produce a human race with so much variability as we see today.